Hey everybody, Spencer here to review the Cloverfield Paradox. As advertised, it supposedly answers all the questions left behind by the other films. Does it? Kinda. So, as the film starts off, they have some satellite in space that can supposedly generate energy to power the whole planet, in a sense. Everybody gets a piece of that. Countries are kind of tense against each other, so they're really banking on this working. And boom, it doesn't work. The Earth is gone, and the crew is left wondering what the hell to do next. And from there, it kind of turns into a more tame Event Horizon. Yeah, turns into one of those. Weird shit starts happening, they don't know what's going on, and they have to find a way to see the Earth again. And that's pretty much where the plot kicks off. So, out of the Cloverfield verse movies, this is my least favorite thus far. I didn't necessarily dislike it. It was okay. That's all it really was okay. It felt like not everything connected well. It was really disjointed. Like it threw a bunch of random stuff in and didn't try to connect it all together with some kind of theme, really. There is kind of with the main character Ava and Michael, their connection and what they go through kind of has a loop around. But aside from that, everything else just feels a little bit tacked on. The acting in the movie from Ava was pretty good, but that's because she was the most developed. That was a problem with this movie, was that they throw this cast of characters at us, but we don't really get real personalities from them. You just know them as the Italian one, the German one, the Chinese one, the Brazilian one. And aside from their nationalities, because again, that does play a role, because the world is impending war, and the German guy doesn't like the Russian guy because those two countries are going to come to war. And really, do you really think Germany is going to take anyone out? I digress. That's politics. I don't want to get into that. We'll get flagged. But yeah, you might as well have just called the characters Brazil in Germany, and you would have established their point. Aside from that, there's just nothing really there. I feel like if they cut down the characters and spent time developing them, it would have been better. The effects were decent in places, not so decent in others. There's a particular scene involving someone's arm to where sometimes it was convincing, other times it wasn't, and there was part of the arm that you could tell was CG, and it just looked a little bit cheesy to me. I'm no tech expert, I'm no expert on how to make realistic looking arm parts, but they could have touched that up a little bit. All things considered, it felt fairly small scale, like an indie sci-fi movie, not necessarily some sort of big budget thing. I wasn't expecting a big budget thing, but I was expecting it to be on par with the movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it didn't quite make it to that. It was a little beneath Life. Where was I going with this? So yeah, weird shit happens. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but I will say, if you want to come into this and understand everything that went on in the first Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, you're not really going to find those answers here. At least not very good answers. So don't come into this for that. But I mean, if you like the other two and you kind of like the whole Black Mirror thing the Cloverfield movies are doing with themselves, then go ahead, check it out. It's alright. Overall. It is the weakest of the movies, and I probably won't be seeing it again anytime soon, but for what it was alright. Alright, now let's get into the fun part, spoilers. Okay, so, the Cloverfield monster. We see it again. And I didn't think we would, because there's a scene in the middle of the movie where it's just like walking through the smoke, and I thought, oh, okay, well, there's the Cloverfield monster. Okay, why were there reshoots? And then at the very end, it just comes out of the clouds and roars, so it's like fully grown. And I was like, holy shit, that's cool. And then it just ends. And my problem with it is it's never fully explained. So the nature of what's happening was that the two dimensions were colliding together and they were fighting against each other. People would be on the ship that weren't supposed to be there. People would lose their arms that would gain sentience. They would receive signals and news feeds from stuff that clearly isn't happening. And I thought that was the theme that they were going to stick with. But how does it explain the monsters being thrown in? Was there a third dimension they crossed over and met with it? Because there's more than one. They do say, like, those things, plural. So I don't know if there's multiple Cloverfield monsters or if it's a Cloverfield monster and the aliens in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Something along those lines. It seems so weird to me. And of course they have like the skeptic before this was all going to go down saying, oh yeah, they're gonna merge realities together, there's going to be monsters and demons, and he was so on point, so I'm like, okay, where's this character going, because he was right about everything. Nowhere, that was just his bit. That was his foreshadowing in the movie, which is basically just flat out explaining everything that's going on. And then I'm so glad they did this though, but the woman on the ship, I forget her name, but the woman mysteriously appears on there. She was part of the other dimension's crew that also started the accelerator, and she had like this very cold, calculated performance throughout. Like, you knew she was going to do something, and then it slowly looked like she wasn't going to do something, and I'm so glad she did, because that would have been a wasted opportunity. But at the same time, it makes it a little bit predictable, because you knew by the way she would just stare at people and just go, yeah, you can trust me. I'll do those controls just fine. You can trust me. I'm not crazy. And have no payoff. That's another thing. Like, they kind of instantly believe her. So apparently, like, the alternate German guy sabotaged the ship for some reason. And she says that, and they look it up and find messages confirming what she says. But why would they bother checking to begin with when every single other thing she said was not true? It's like, okay, well, you're not on the ship. Okay, well, yes, she is. Well, these guys were supposed to be there. No, they weren't. Okay, well, this guy's a traitor. Well, we'll look that one up. I don't know. What else? Because they play with it to where the main character's main struggle is deciding whether or not to stick inside that reality. The reality at which her children are alive. As we learn, they died in a fire due to her. She hooked up a power cell that burnt down the house and kind of ruined her relationship with her husband. And yeah, that's her conflict dealing with that. So, why are and the alternate Earth itself, I'll touch, is being bombarded by war. The countries are killing each other. The whole planet may be doomed. So, why is it that the alternate Earth is dealing with such humanistic problems? The main character is dealing with humanistic problems, but then tie this into the Cloverfield verse. I mean, 10 Cloverfield Lane, fine, because it was somewhat well integrated. He was a crazy conspiracy theorist that turned out to be right. Okay, we'll go with that. But then you deal with this one that more or less touches upon fate and stuff like that, and it just didn't feel like a very good translation, and not a good transition. I guess either one of those would work, but I don't know. It didn't work for me. It felt like it was in conflict with a more humanistic story. I guess, I don't know, maybe to get more people to see it. Sure, some people made that argument about 10 Cloverfield Lane, although I argue if you kept the same cast and cut out the alien stuff, I'd still watch it. And hell, I read the original screenplay. I'd probably like it more depending on the execution. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Cloverfield paradox. There's apparently a fourth one coming out involving Nazi zombies, so we're gonna see how that ties into it. So, yeah, if you wanted to see the Cloverfield monster again, watch the last few seconds of this movie. He comes out of the clouds, he's giant, he's batshit crazy, and all that. And it's funny too because they set it up to be a happy ending. Like, they're all happy. Oh, we're back on Earth. Oh, the station's working. We're making communications with Earth. We're going to go home. And at no point during their conversation, which was brief because of, I don't know, the satellite was having issues, but they never thought to bring up, hey, by the way, there's monsters down here, so we're going to need you to land at a different point, please, or something like that, because they're so screwed when they hit the water. Like, like they're all so happy and it's so optimistic, and then okay, it's flooded by monsters. There's no way, like, they're gonna get helicopters and ships to intercept them in time, especially since the Cloverfield monster came out of the water, so they're gonna be chilling there. I also thought that the escape pod they were in was gonna be like the satellite that crashes at the end of Cloverfield, because that's what the shot looks like near the end, like, of it just being like a distance away and it going through the clouds, just like the satellite went through the water. And I thought, okay, is this going to work? Because that's going to raise so many questions. And it didn't play out that way, but there's still questions. Of course there's questions. This is the Cloverfield universe. They only raise questions. What do you mean there's monsters now? Where did they come from? How did that one guy know it was going to happen? What? Why did only some of the people, why did only one person from the original crew move to the new ship, but none of the original crew went to the old ship, or vice versa? Why was the hand sentient? How did that work? Oh, it looks like my camera's about to die. So, until we meet again, stay golden. My issue is not what has been a little more full. My issue than any my issue.